Hi everyone, and thanks for coming to our EYH demo on glaciers and glacial flow, organized by YJ Chung, Vicky Chung, and me, Paula Berge. In this demo, you're going to be learning about what glaciers are, how they form, why they're important, and a little bit more about the demo. So glaciers are basically kind of a big, slow-moving river of ice. They form when snow falls. And as more snowfall falls, the snow actually gets compacted and turns into ice as it's buried. When glaciers become, really big, what happens is they collapse under their own weight and they end up flowing, sort of like a really slow river. And in this case, this glacier is flowing kind of right out of this valley bounded by two mountains. Glaciers can be found all over the world, but mainly in cold climates, like polar regions in the North and South Pole, and on mountains. So actually, when you go up in elevation or up a mountain, the climate gets colder and glaciers are able to form in those areas. So there are actually even glaciers near the equator, which is pretty cool, but you have to have pretty tall mountains for that to happen. So why do we care about glaciers? They are really cool. I think that's a great first reason. But also they contain information about past climates. And if you've seen Frozen 2, you'll remember that they say water has memory. And this is true, but you really need scientific tools to analyze this. So in the case of glaciers, they actually contain little bits of past climates from thousands of years ago that scientists can go and drill into the glaciers and analyze the results to see what the Earth's climate was like in the past. And here is a real life glaciologist or a glacial scientist actually dressed up as Elsa doing her glacier field work. So not only do we care about past climate when it comes to glaciers, but we also care about present day climate. So with climate change, it's actually creating, I'm sure you've heard of this, glaciers are beginning to melt and ice sheets are beginning to melt. So this is an example of a surging glacier kind of surging out into this bay, and eventually this ice will melt. And one of the big issues with this is, of course, is sea level rise. So as glaciers melt, the sea level is going to begin to rise, and that really affects people, humankind. Glaciers also are a big factor in forming landscapes, and they transport very large amounts of sediment. So there's a lot more to talk about with glacier science and glaciology, but I think that's all I have time for right now. So in this demo, you will be simulating glacial flow patterns using this thing called glacier goo, which is a mix of these ingredients shown here. And by the end of this demo, you'll understand kind of how glaciers flow through different landscapes and also the role they play in sediment transport. So here is the demo.
All right, let's start to make some glacier goo. For the full recipe, you can find it from the previous slide, and here we're going to quickly go over the stuff you need. So take a measuring cup, two mixing bowls, something to stir with, and a cup of warm water. Also, you need some Elmer's white glue and borax powder, and the food coloring is optional. First off, mix 3/4 cups of warm water with 1 cup of Elmer's glue. And we're using the measuring cup here. So this is for the mixture 1. You have to stir that pretty well. And then in the separate container, mix 1/2 cups of warm water with 2 teaspoons of borax powder. And then it's your time to add your food coloring if desired. And stir them well too. Now pour the powder mix into the glue mix and keep stirring because the reaction happens quickly. When it becomes more solid, knead the goo for a few minutes to make sure everything is well mixed. And while you're kneading, you can continue to add your borax mix. And finally, the glacier goo should be able to slowly from your hands. You can hold it and then test it to see if it is moving down. Oh, wow. Demo 1. For this demo, we made a half pipe using the Pringles tube. And then we pour some glacier goo on the top of it and let it flow down. So this is to simulate the glacier flowing in the valley. And we also add some extra glacier goo with a green color, as you can see on the surface. Well, you can think of them as the segments the glacier is transporting. So, well, the glacier goo moves slowly, and this is actually the time-lapse video to show what's going on in about like 20 minutes. When the glacier flow exits the pipe, it starts to propagate in a much wider direction, forming a fan at the bottom. This is exactly the shape of the glacier you saw from one of the previous slides. At the same time, these sediment spots also change their shapes as they reach the bottom and eventually start to accumulate in the very front of the glacier. Demo 2. Well, for this demo, let's try something more complicated. So we made a topographic cardboard here and wrap it with aluminum foil. We probably have to spend a few hours to make this, but it's a fun process. Now we pour glacier goo with 2 different colors at different channels, and we also add some green goo on the surface of the segment spots again. And then, as I said before, this is the time-lapse video, and everything here you see actually happened in a half hour. So when the two flows meet each other, they don't mix like water, but instead, they flow just together side by side. You can see all the spots are stretched along the flow direction. If a spot reaches the boundary between the flows, it will be highly squeezed and become a stripe. And a segment stripe observed on the glacier surface is called a medial moraine. Oops, there's a cat. As I said, well, this is time-lapse video, so this is something we can prevent. But overall, this is a fun process. I encourage you to try this at your home. So now we have done with our experiment. If you want to reuse your glacier goo, you can store it in a Ziploc bag like this for a week or two, or maybe until it dries out. And then from this demo, we use this glacier goo to give an idea about how a glacier flows over real landscape. And then you can see the glacier can transport this sediments downstream, like such as the green spots on the glacier goo surface. And these sediment packages are stretched or squeezed by the glacier flow so it can form an interesting pattern on the glacier surface. So I hope you enjoyed this demo. I'm YJ. Thanks for watching.